Dun 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 dun. Intro music. Okay, we are back to Comics Creations with Jack Moses. This is Jack Moses, and I will be helping you and guiding you create comic books. So sit back and enjoy, and pull out your pencils or your digital tablets or anything you're doing. Switch over. You can, I think, press Shift and Alt or something like that. As you're doing that, you know, um, kind of get some ideas. Use these videos as reference. Uh, let's create a strong following here, because I'm just here to help, guys. I'm just here to help. I'm here to help, and I'm here to show you my comic book. I'm here to give you some ideas of what to do. Okay, that's what I'm here for. So, if you have any problems, issues, comments, anything pertaining to art or just how you feel or whatever, I'm right here. Okay, that's what this channel is about. We're going to be talking about facial features. We're going to be talking about how the facial features relate to the particular scene. Like, for instance, you see the raised eyebrows and the crossed eyes and the tongue sticking out, showing that she is incredibly bored. She's pulling her hair. She's waiting to be called in. She's waiting to be called in to the fight because she's, they're kind of creating like I would say, kind of a pincer attack. But things are going to get hot and heavy, and she needs to be called in. It's all part of the Dragon Sisters. And the Dragon Sisters, there's 3 sisters. This is one of them. This is Helena Sparks. I'm going to be creating her backstory through a boredom act where she just kind of like falls asleep, possibly. Right now, I haven't completely figured out how I'm going to introduce that. I want her to be just super ADD. She's always been this way. Even in college, she was just highly bored, always getting into trouble, always trying to find things she could do to stay out of trouble. She didn't like being in trouble, but she was always in trouble because she was bored, super bored, constantly. So that is Helena Sparks in a nutshell for now. Each panel, each page, I will explain more and more of the story as time goes on. But really what I want to talk about in this video is you've got to make a gesture. You've got to make gestures. And after you've made your gestures, you've got to make another layer that's kind of a practice layer. Okay? A lot of people want to move straight to the inking or straight to the pencil layer. For me, it's a gesture. And in that gesture layer, or if you're doing it on paper, you can always get a light board or something. But for me, I have my gesture, and in that gesture layer I also create the light pencil, because a gesture is so fast, and that's the way it should be. It should be super fast. Like, you should be able to right over the page to figure out what you're doing, because it's panel layout. It's panel layout, and if you'll notice, all my panels, I try to manipulate these panels. I try to manipulate these panels into what the action is. I really enjoy. I don't want to be confined to a box. I want to make sure there's room for bubbles. I want to make sure there's room for the action, the thought bubbles, the dialogue bubbles, the all of these things. I want to make sure there's room for those, and I want to make it clear where it is, make sure it reads really well, because that's what's important. Each panel, don't slough off on any panel, not a one. Each panel has got to be able to tell its story, tell the part of the story. And in those panels, a lot of times, And I've seen it done before, and I think it's absolutely amazing how it's done. I don't want to stay within the boundaries of the panels. If there's something going on that is creating, I don't know, kind of pull, if a scene, like this particular scene, she's got her leg hanging off the panel. This is her page. This is her introduction page. Helena Sparks. She's, so she's allowed to have her body parts running all over the page, as long as there's room for the bubbles, the thought bubbles, the dialogue bubbles, all of these other things. But I cannot stress enough, you got to lay it out. You've got to lay it out. Just go in there, create some light lines, and really let it flow like a paintbrush. That's how you have to do it. And once you kind of have an idea of what you're going to do for each one of your characters, you can create, it almost creates a feeling of, you can create a feeling of who they are through the panels. Like, for me, Helena Sparks is a big goofball. She's always in trouble. She's, tries her best. She cannot stand what is going on with this horrible fallout scene. So, and later on, she gets older and she doesn't really mature too much, but she matures a little bit. And this guy right here, this is a giant sugar glider who has come onto the scene and just starts licking her arm, because that's what I imagine a giant sugar glider would do if it was, bored. It's bored like her. They kind of have the same personality. And that's why you're going to see that this introduction page to Helena Sparks is all about her and this little guy here. He's a little, he's a little fun little guy here. He gets her out of trouble. He's kind of like a physical manifestation of a conscience, if that makes any sense at all. But you'll see more about them, and I just wanted to make them really cute, because I don't want everything in my world to be horrible. I want some lightheartedness every now and then. I just want to create a sense of, now right here you can see that I'm trying to put some buildings in. Now that is a no-no. I should not have done that, because you do not want to draw your reader's attention away from the main piece, which is an introduction to Helena Sparks and her goofiness. How, she's bored. She's waiting to be called in to action. And so I got rid of that, because we just want to mainly focus on that. So I move on to the next panel, where you can see her leg is hanging off, and she's, if you look at it right now, and that's why you create the pencil layer, or excuse me, the layer before the pencil layer, the more fleshed out, tighter layer, so you can move on to the pencil layer, which you can really, really fix. And so right now her eyes are more opened, and she's kind of like, staring off into space. And I don't want that. I do not want that. So you'll see soon that I draw her attention downward towards the giant sugar glider, like, hey, because for a while she just kind of calls it, hey, giant sugar glider thing, how are you? And where did you come from? All of these things. But anyway, she will be calling it giant sugar glider, because she doesn't have a name for it. But, you'll see how that works out. Right now, I'm going to be introducing a ginormous creature soon. It's going to be making its second appearance. The first appearance was in the very first book, which you can check out. Timeless Visions. That's the name of this book. Timeless Visions on Comixology. Check out the link below. I have my own little part of their website in their portal. It's a great platform, by the way. Check that out. I mean, you've got the widescreen dynamic feature that they offer on these digital comics, you know, DC, Marvel, Image, Dark Horse, and these other great indie creators. You know, it's a really, really, really neat platform. So make sure you check that out, and then make sure you check out Comixology, or check out Timeless Visions and read that. It's an amazing story. Aliens, monsters, post-apocalyptic situations. So a lot of people create post-apocalyptic things, but I'm creating a post-apocalyptic thing created from an alien takeover, which I think is a really cool idea. So make sure you check that out. Alright, so this giant sugar glider is kind of pulling on her hand. You know, trying to get her attention. So that's when she's like, hey, giant sugar glider thing, what's up? And when it comes to animals, especially animals that you've created yourself, the sky is pretty much the limit. I mean, you can go really, really crazy as long as it's got action and the outline looks good. You can make the wildest of things. But if you're going for more something that's in the world, unless it's so badly mutated, which you'll see a lot of that in my books, it's going to look, it's going to follow a pattern. It's going to follow the same formula as a creature that you would see out in the world. So you got to look at the bone structure, you got to look at the muscles, you got to look at all these things. I cannot stress enough to look at references, animals, go deep inside them, the muscle structures, all of these things. Now, if you'll notice right here, I don't have a problem with hands. I have a problem with hands touching things. It's a pressure value thing that really, really gets to me. And so I keep playing, I keep playing, I keep playing, I keep playing. It's a metaphor for life, this situation right here. If you just keep working at it, you're going to get it figured out. You're going to get it figured out. A lot of times you're going to need to use reference. But don't go, if you have seen it enough in life, don't fall back to reference right away, because then you're going to get stale. Try to use what it is that you have from memory. Okay? And if it's still not working out, then go to reference. But I cannot stress enough to don't always just depend on reference, because it's not always going to be there. It's really not always going to be there. If you're carrying your pad around everywhere you go, you know, you got an idea in your head, and I recommend you do this. You carry it around everywhere. You know, you've got to remember these things. Record them in your mind so you can have them for later. So you can have them when it's not readily available. Like, I think I was mentioning in another video, Pinterest, Instagram, Tumblr, sometimes Twitter. Twitter is more, you know, communication than it is pictures. But, you know, when you're by yourself, just throw down quick gestures. That's important. Throw down quick gestures. And if you have time, really flesh them out. And don't just flesh out people. Don't just flesh out animals. Work on it all. Because as a comic book creator, you are all of it. You are the props man. You are the producer. You are, you know, you're creating the clothes. You're the clothes designer. You're the industrial designer. You're all of these things. So you've got to remember all of it. And it's very, very difficult to remember all of these things. So just make sure that you're make sure that you're keeping it recorded in your head. And if you have to go back to reference, then go back to reference. But I suggest it's almost like working out. I suggest you remember it. And if you have an idea of what it is, then just keep straining your brain. Keep straining that muscle memory. Because you're going to remember. You're going to remember the more you do it. And if you're creating comics, you're making so many angles, so much perspective, so many times of gloves, so many times faces, eyes, noses, arms, animals, all of these things. It's just going to become like second nature. It really is. And I have not hit that point. I don't know if I ever will. But I'm never ever going to give up. And I'm telling you, don't ever give up. No matter how hopeless it seems at times. Because, that's an artist's mind right there. An artist's mind is, it's constantly criticizing what you're your worst critic. You will always be your worst critic. There's so many people out there who look at your work and they're pleased with your work, but you're never, well, sometimes you're pleased with your own work, sometimes, but you're always having something that's bothering you, because it's what's inside of you. Nobody knows what's bothering you. Only you do. So that's a little, comfort to let you know that if you're having some issues and it's still reading okay on the paper, chances are everything's going to be okay. Chances are everything's going to be okay. As long as things are in proportion. If you had difficulties with something, just, keep working on it. Keep working on it. But don't frustrate yourself about it. Do not frustrate, because that creates a need to say, well, I just suck, so I'm done. Don't ever do that. Because we need more artists in the world. We need more artists in the world. It creates beauty. It's not just comic art. It's paintings. It's street art. Art is designing architecture. It's all of these things. And we need more of it. And if we have discouraged people, then we're not going to see the beauty in the world. So make sure you don't get too discouraged. I'm just going on about that because I think it's really important to remember. All right, now here she had kind of a look, and I was explaining this earlier. Here she had kind of a look of staring off into space, and I wasn't liking that at all, because I want her to be, it's an introduction to Helena Sparks and her little sugar glider friend, which I'm not giving her its name right now. It's just basically giant sugar glider, because that's just how her mind works. Now right here I'm lowering her eyelids to create an image of a feeling of her looking down at it, because it is pulling at her hand, and she's very nonchalant about how she is. She's just very relaxed, and until something happens, and then she's like, she's a crazy squirrel. So I figured I would have this character, Helena Sparks, who has the mindset of just a ADD girl, always getting in trouble, to be kind of like a squirrel. When there's action, she just pops. Gets very excited, but she's bored easily. So her friend is kind of like a representation of her personality. I've manifested her personality into a little friend, which is why they get along so well. He is the voice of reason to her. He keeps her out of trouble. He'll have a name later. Right now he doesn't have a name, because I don't want to reveal that right now. And he also has some other things going on with him that she has no idea about, because this, like I said, this is a very strange, alien, crazy world, so you never know what's going to happen. You really never know what. That's why I chose this story, because the sky's the limit to what can happen. You got an alien bug race that has taken over all human life, pretty much, with a gaseous. Well, I don't want to explain too much, but you know, and created this this fallout, this post-apocalyptic alien fallout, the Protodarian fallout, and you know, you could just really do a lot with it, and you'll see that in this comic, it just gets super wild, crazy, crazy, crazy comic. I mean, the main focus is all about Janine. She has an ability of prophecy through it being embedded while she was a baby, while she was in her mother's womb, because of the situation. And you can find that out in the second book. You can find that, what is it? Yeah, you can find that out in the second book, that's right. And so you got so many different elements in this. You've got sci-fi, you've got horror, you've got post-apocalyptic, you've got an element of funny, you've got a kind of a Western feel element to it. There's so many different parts to this book that just kind of blend in, and all it all works together, in my opinion. You know, and then you've got your super supreme beings who, well, like I said, I'm not going to say too much, but check it out. It's called TimelessVisions, and you can find it on the Comixology platform, and the link is down below of this video. And every one of my videos, the link is down below. You can also find me on Twitter, Instagram. You can see my username down there. But you know, this channel is explaining Timeless Visions, but it's also trying to give a insider look to the mind of an artist, so you can do the best you can to follow along. And if you have any questions or comments or any of these things, or you just want to talk about something, then, you know, it pertaining to art, then just, you know, let me know. That's what I'm here for. That's what this channel is all about. It's about trying to create something that everyone will enjoy. Just like this comic book. I want to make the genre so out there that it creates all of these elements, and ultimately melding it together to make something that a lot of people would enjoy. You just got to check it out. You know, they got to start reading it and really, really, you know, getting into it. It's intense. It's a great book in my opinion. But like I said, I'm biased. And the other aspect of this channel is to tutorials inside panels, or in my what is that? In my case, outside of panels too, because I like to use the panels as props themselves. Like I said, this is her page, so she's all over it. So she can do that. I wouldn't recommend it if you're having different scenes going on, unless it's a little bitty piece. Like for instance, if you have blood dropping down to the next panel, that's fine, do that. You know, but if you've got something big, like, you know, a stance, a strong stance, or a leg hanging off, something, you know, nonchalant, don't do that unless it's their complete panel, or it's their complete page. And that's what Helena Sparks is. This is her page. This is her page and her Sugar Gliders page. It's an introduction page. She's one of the Dragon Sisters. So in the next video, I'm going to be showing you more of dynamics. I'm going to be showing you perspective, all of these things, because I cannot stress the importance of perspective, vanishing points. It's very important to have the vanishing points. Creating a vanishing point allows you to, and you'll see right here, I did some screw up with the door. I think I'm trying to, what was it I was doing? Oh yeah, I was playing around. I was putting her in a box, which was never intended to stay. I just was playing around at that point. And so right here, you'll see me make a door. I figured out that the door was, not right, because I didn't work on. I'm talking about vanishing points, and here I didn't make my vanishing point. But vanishing points are so very important. We're going to talk about vanishing points. We're going to talk about perspective in the next video. Make sure you comment, subscribe, like if you enjoyed the video. I cannot wait to see you guys again. I'm really, really enjoying this, and I hope you're enjoying it too. And you guys just, take care and keep plugging away.